Hi there, so this is the weekend review going over the performances of what I thought were the best ones over the last few days, and hopefully might even point you in the direction of a couple of winners as well down the line. So of course we'll start with the best race over the weekend, which of course was the Coral Eclipse. Now this was won by Constitution River, who backed up his win in the Prix de Jockey Club there on Saturday. I think when this horse gets rated tomorrow, I think he'll probably be rated around 124, 125, which is still a very good rating. And the 3-year-olds, of course, did dominate this race again. The first 3 home were indeed 3-year-olds, with a boy named Susie in second, Veronica O'Brien, and indeed Hawk Mountain, who was third for his father Aidan as well. But Constitution River did it in good style. At one point, he just wanted to get the gap between Geffin, but Ryan Moore couldn't get it, and therefore he didn't panic. He just switched him round, and it came through. And it's probably a blessing in disguise, actually, that he had to wait, because he might have just gone a shade too early had he done so. He still would have won, but he did it in good style, did Constitution River. The only thing I would say about this horse, I think, is what he's achieved, I think, is the way he's been talked up with the hype about Ryan Moore saying he's the best horse he's ridden and all of this, and Aidan O'Brien saying similar. I just think what he's achieved has, like I said, his hype is just running ahead of what he's actually done so far. And that's the only reason why I'm slightly dampened about what this horse is doing. I'd like to people be a bit more realistic about him, hence why I think he'll get a rating of 124 or 125. I mean, Bo Echo's going to be rated higher than him still. And of course, Ombudsman and Calandagan still will be in the 130s. So I think Aidan O'Brien's had plenty of horses like this. I think he's the best Aidan O'Brien 3-year-old in the stable right now, is Constitution River. But is he the best Ryan Moore's Road or Aidan O'Brien's train? I'm still quite doubtful myself. But he's a good horse, and I'd like to see him continue his progression throughout the rest of the year, which hopefully will come in the Juddmonte International against the aforementioned Ombudsman there in late August. So we're really looking forward to seeing that if it does indeed happen. Later on early on in the card, we had the Coral Distaff, which was won by Secret of Life. I thought this was a very good ride, this, by Ross Ryan, who did everything from the front, a good track to do so as well at Sandown, pulling off the front-running tactics there. And I think it was good to see the Rafe Beckett yard as well come into form over the last couple of weeks. They've just steadily been hitting their straps, but they had a disappointing Royal Ascot, but they did very well with this finish. She was well backed as well, going off 2-1 favourite. But she had to prove a few things as well. It was the quickest ground she'd ever raced on, so she ticked that box by winning there on Saturday. And like I said, it was Ross Ryan who did it in good style. She was also up in grade as well to listed level and coped with that in her stride. Not sure particularly how good the form was. I think the second and the third are just okay. I don't think they're anything more than that. The favourite, or one of the favourites in the morning, was Sacred Ground, but I think she's a bit of a twicer, I think. She's got loads of headgear on. She sticks her head up in the air, and I don't think she's the most straightforward horse to train. So Sacred Ground is one I'd be leaving alone for the rest of the season at the moment. I don't think she wants to fully go through with it at the moment. The race before that was indeed the Coral Challenge. This was a handicap, and this was pretty much my favourite race of the day because I backed the winner in Indalo. I tipped the horse at 4-1, and the horse went off 9-4 favourite. That's the price I actually think the horse should have been to begin with, because I did put that horse down at 9-4 in Mauritius. That was always good when a horse does that. But there were a few non-runners like Beagle Bay, Cerulean Bay, and indeed River King, who had run well from a bad draw at Ascot previously, as had Indalo in the Royal Hunt Cup. He was unlucky as well in the Cambridgeshire last year, when only just beaten by Boiling Point. So it was good to see him get his win there on Saturday. And also Ray Dawson, I think, rode the horse very well. Just a little bit awkward up the home straight was Indalo there. But like I said, he did knuckle down when needed to beat Hard Endeavour by half a length. And the horse certainly deserved that. And it looks like he'll be heading back to the Cambridgeshire later on in the season to try and go one better than he did 12 months ago. And hopefully for connections, he can do so there for Varian Racing Club there in September, there in the Cambridgeshire. Also, the race before that, we had Rumstar winning the Coral Charge for Johnny Portman. Always like to see Johnny Portman have a winner. I think he's a trainer that always seems to punch above his weight. He buys horses relatively cheaply at the sales as well. But this horse, Rumstar, has indeed been a star for him. Didn't run his race at Ascot last time when he didn't have a great draw in what was a difficult race in the King Charles III, but he bounced back here to win. Asphora doesn't really go a yard. I think she's certainly not the same mare as she was last year. But the second and the third as well, Luna in Banish and Partisan Hero, both ran well this year in handicaps from bad draws. Luna in Banish had actually ran well in the listed race from a bad draw at Ayr last time. It just shows you when horses run well from bad draws how good it is how it pays to follow them next time out. Like I said, Luna in Banish had run well from a bad draw at Ayr. Partisan Hero had won from a bad draw at York in Handicap Company earlier in the season, and now they're running well in Group 3. So it just shows you if you can overcome a bad draw, it certainly is worth following them throughout the season. And what those two horses did. But still, Rumstar was too good for them there in the Group 3 at Sandown there on Saturday. Also, we had the Old Newton Cup as well at Newmarket on Saturday. This was won by Sporting Silver Mine. Good training performance this from James Owen, I thought, getting the horse to win. It looked like it had been the target. And there are a few horses, though, in behind who definitely didn't seem to run their race, and one of those was Class Leader. I'd be giving him a pass, though, on this. I do think the ground was far too quick for him. I know he was beaten a long way out, but he's by Luke de Vega. They all generally, from that stallion, want softer ground as a general rule. And like I said, I think he just was beaten by that, really. It was the quickest ground he'd encountered for some time as well. And the William Haggis stable as well maybe aren't quite in the same form as what they were, say, at Royal Ascot. So that is always a question mark. Maybe the heat wave that we've had has affected them as well, as it has possibly a few yards that aren't quite firing as what they once were when the Royal meeting came round. So, yeah, very good performance there from Sporting Silver Mine. It was actually a new course record as well over the 1.5 miles at Newmarket. And a good ride there for Marco Gianni. But I'd just be slightly questionable how good the race was, because it wasn't just Class Leader who underperformed, I think, because of the ground. Plage de Havre, who was second favourite, who won the Old Newton Cup last year at Haydock, he certainly, I don't think, liked the ground either. And I think he would have wanted the race where it was previously at Haydock. Of course, hopefully their meetings now come back in the short term with hopefully all the problems they had been sorted. So good to see, though, good performance from Sporting Silver Mine, as I said, but the form could be slightly questionable from what we saw there at Newmarket. There was also one race that I really did want to talk about too, and that was at Deauville on Saturday. And this was a very impressive performance from a horse called Hasselet, who took the Darley Prix Amandine there by 4 lengths, and she was in the middle of the track there in her group, and there she just absolutely bolted up in the end, winning by 4 lengths under Mikel Barcelona. The Dame Lucide has produced horses that have stayed further than 7 furlongs, so there is always a chance that Hasselet could get further. But I think the way she did it, she could potentially be more of a sprinting filly, and she did really well, like I said, to win that contest. She'd won at Newmarket previously in a novice in good style there at the Craven meeting, but certainly improved on that to win in great style. Another advertisement for the Super Sire as well in Night of Thunder. A fantastic performance there from Hasselet there. And I think out of all the performances at the weekend, I think Hasselet is certainly the one that gets the gold star tick from me. I thought she was very, very impressive there for Charlie Appleby and Mikel Barcelona, and I'm really excited to see where she goes next there after winning on Saturday. Just a couple of races as well on Friday that I wanted to talk about. One of them was the Coral Marathon. This race was won by Lazy Griff for Charlie Johnston. A really good performance. It wasn't a truly run race, though, which again just slightly dampened my enthusiasm. But the horse did it in good style under Billy Loughnane, who's now actually leading the charge in the Jockeys Championship. He's now got ahead of Oisin Murphy, so it's going to be an interesting duel between those two now for who's going to be champion jockey. But like Lazy Griff did it in good style. Hopefully he goes for the Goodwood Cup now, which would look the obvious race for him, especially when he's trained by Charlie Johnston and normally targets that meeting there. It won't be easy for him, given he'll probably be up against Calandigan Trawlerman or Scandinavia. I don't think we'll see Calandigan in any races like that yet. But yeah, it won't be easy for him. But Charlie Johnston seems to be in a bit of a dilemma. He's not absolutely sure whether this horse is a stayer. I think he definitely is a stayer. But maybe because he's still a full horse, he wants the horse to be have a bit more speed in him. Doesn't really want him to be seen as a national hunt stallion when he retires, which is what most horses are when they run over those extended distances of the staying trips. But I'd be running him in the Goodwood Cup. And if he doesn't think that, then he could always drop him back in trip to the Irish St Leger. But that's the way I'd go if I was him after that performance there in the Coral Marathon. And also Salal won again. He won the Gala Stakes in the race before at 3:35 on Friday. He was very impressive at Epsom last time in good style. He did it again, a bit like Secret of Life, did it in different conditions. It was much quicker ground this time than what it was at Epsom. And indeed, went a different pace as well in a smaller field. But he always looked like the winner, did Salal on this occasion. Glacius, who was in third, I thought ran quite well, stayed on there for Hugo Palmer. Maybe that one might be worth looking at next time. But Salal, I think, is a horse certainly to keep an eye on again moving forward. Maybe the race like the Glasgow Stakes, which Roger Varian's won before, with a horse called Defoe. I think Salal could just be in his bracket. I think he could just be a horse that steadily climbs up through the ranks. He's also won at Hamilton as well, Salal, last year as well. So I think the Glasgow Stakes could be a really good option for him further down the line there. But good to see him win there. And of course, Roger Varian certainly had a good weekend with Salal and indeed in Darlow there over the couple of days there at Sandown. And then, of course, we had Calandagan. He won the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud on Sunday. Wasn't fully enamoured, though, by his performance. I think the second Calificor and indeed the third Sunley are magnificent horses. I don't think if the connections of Ombudsman or indeed Constitution River will be looking at that quivering in their boots, thinking, oh, he's definitely back to his best. Because I think Calandagan, even though he obviously, when he ran at Epsom in the Coronation Cup, the ground was to blame, but I just don't think he's come back quite the same horse this year. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just think he might just be a horse that's coming to the end of his tether in terms of how good he is. But that's my opinion. I could well be proven wrong on that. And I'd certainly like to see him do it again before I ever put money down on him there in the future. So there you are, that is the weekend review done and dusted for this week. If you like this video, please like and indeed subscribe to the channel. And I'm also going to put my link to my Patreon page as well there in the comments, where you'll find all my tips and indeed analysis as well from the horses I'll be interested in moving forward as well. So thanks very much and have a great day.